Do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give him hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down. 14.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah.
11 got it.
Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and we're headed to Michigan. Going to be a hot one out there today, but I think these guys are ready. Should be fun and interesting. There is a change in green flag time. If you are doing Draftkings, you need to make sure you get your picks in by 3 o'clock. I think green flag's 3:01, so definitely get your picks in early, since the start has been moved up a little bit. There is also, the reason for the change is because there is a chance for precipitation, rain. So make sure you take that into account also. Michigan does not have lights, so if they make it to halfway or the end of stage 2, whichever one happens first, that is an official race, and could shorten this race, which definitely will emphasize the fact that while we were probably only looking for 1, maybe 2 dominators at most, we definitely are only looking for 1 to 2 dominators. Looking for finishing positions. This track is very similar to Auto Club, other than it's not quite as rough and not quite as hard on tires, but tires will be something to keep an eye on at this race, along with fuel mileage. And I also think that drafting will play a decent factor in this race. So I think we'll see not pack racing like we see at Talladega or Daytona or those types of races, but I do think that we will see some drafting come into play at this race. So as we see, Ryan Blaney did win this race last year in 2021, but let's only go back 1 week to Indy road course, which ended up being okay for me. Hopefully you had a good day. It was nutty. It was a little crazy. Turn 1 is a major issue, as once again this year and last year, turn 1, people cutting courses and doing weird things, and finishing orders changing after the race because of penalties and such. But either way, Tyler Reddick was probably the class of the field all day long, and he did get the victory, which was well deserved by Tyler Reddick. 2 wins on road courses for Tyler. Is he the new road course ringer? We've gotten quite a few. Suarez, Chase Elliott's still up there. Chase Elliott was, a factor most of the day until one of the last restarts where he got shuffled to the back. Kyle Larson, still is running decent at road courses. So we've got, a good probably 8 to 10 drivers. You can't always forget about AJ Allmendinger. But we've got a good handle of a good assortment of drivers, probably 10 or 11 of them that are viably decent to do well on road courses. So with Watkins Glen coming up in 2 weeks, it should be quite interesting. But our optimal lineups from Indy road course: Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, who I definitely missed the boat on Bubba Wallace. Typically not a road course racer, but I think with a lot of the attrition in turn 1 after those final restarts, Bubba was able to find himself in a 5th place finish. So Bubba Wallace is on a tear right now, and he got the pole for today. Will it hold? Should be interesting. The last 3 or 4 races, he is the top finishing driver on average, surpassing even Chase Elliott. And I think it's the last 3 races, because Chase Elliott fell back at the Indy road course. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr., another one that I didn't 100% call, but because he started 38th, I didn't think he'd make it to 13th. I thought he might make it to 20th. Cole Custer, 24th, not a road course racer, finishing 9th. Harrison Burton, 13th to 3rd. I definitely expected Harrison Burton to fall back. I expected AJ to run decently well at a road course. He was the winner last year of this race, so I expected him to run fairly well. But, I mean, Erik Jones is not a good road course racer. Todd Gillan's not a good road course racer. Chris Buescher's not bad. Austin Cindric's really good, who finished 2nd. I did call that one out, but Corey LaJoie's not that good. I mean, these guys are finishing in the top 10. Joe Logano, Michael McDowell, expected. Ty Gibbs is a really good road course racer, finishing 17th. Good for him. Getting his 2nd top 20 out of 2 starts. And he's starting 11th today. Will you have Tyler Reddick or Ty Gibbs in your lineup today? I think he might be somebody to look at after winning the race yesterday. But either way, let's not dwell on the past and let's look towards the future. And let's dive into the FireKeepers Casino 400. Quite an interesting name for a casino. But either way, we're at Michigan International Speedway. It's a large oval. It is 2 miles long, 18 degrees in the turns, and this track probably has 5 lanes, but probably 50 different ways to get around this track. Tons of different ways. They did put some resin in the upper grooves to help widen things out even more. So there's going to be lots of different variations to lines to run and trying to find speed. But Dominator points will be 140 points since we're only doing 200 laps, which is a decent amount. Like I said, this track is also a little bit tough to pass on. Once you kind of get that lead, it's a little tough to pass the leader unless you've got some assist from somebody behind you. So I think that's why the draft is going to come into play today. But it's really going to have to be the guy that's helping with the draft or pushing the draft is going to have to be running and be just as fast in the same line that you're running because, like I said, this thing's 5 lanes wide. But laps led 50 and fast laps 90, consisting of the 140-point dominators that may come into play today. I mean, I think, like we said, we will find 1 or 2 dominators at most. A lot of it's going to be finishing positions and some place differentials. But our track comparisons really are Michigan and Auto Club. But you can kind of throw Kansas and Las Vegas into it because they have very similar layouts. And we've also run this new package at those tracks. Hey, if you're just joining in, make sure you hit me up in the chat. Who do you like today? Who do you not like today? How do you think Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon, and some of these rookies? We've got a whole bunch of rookies in this field today that have never run this track before. So how do you think they play into the race? And do you think this ends up being a fuel mileage race? Or are we going to have a lot of cautions that keep everybody kind of bunched up? So I think we may see a fuel mileage race. We haven't seen one of those in forever. But either way, let's kind of break down these driver by drivers. Like I said before, we'll kind of look at Chase Elliott in a little bit more detail to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here. But Chase Elliott, pricing on DraftKings is $10,900. He is starting 13th. In the gray here are his practice speeds. He was 10th in 1 lap fast speed. He did a total of 19 practice laps. He was 5th in 5 lap average and 6th in 10 lap average. And to do these 5 or 10 lap averages, you actually have to run 5 consecutive laps or 10 consecutive laps. And only, I think, 8 drivers got over 10 laps. And I didn't put the 15 lap because there was only 4 drivers that did 15 lap averages. But Chase Elliott did have a 5 lap average and 10 lap average. So 5th and 6th there, 10th on the 1 lap speed. But our comparison tracks, I'm looking at the Michigan from last year and the 2 races from 2020. And the Auto Club, I'm looking at the race from earlier this year and the race, I guess that's supposed to be 2020 because they didn't race there in 21, so I do have a little mistake there. But and then so Chase Elliott, out of those 5 races we're looking at, does not have a win. Only has 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. A 38.2 DraftKings average at those tracks we're looking at, and a 10.8 average finish. He finished 8th in this Michigan race last year. And over here, he has 11 total starts at Michigan with no wins, 3 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and 11 top 20s. And over here in the top left is my ranking system for Chase Elliott is 7. And this is the amount of that I'm using in my 40 lineups. So I run about 40 different lineups each week, and I've got Chase Elliott at about 20 to 25%. A lot of that comes from Chase Elliott's just been running really well at oval tracks recently, probably the best at Hendrick. And the fact that he's starting 13th, and his practice laps were a little better than that, so I think he's got some PD upside. Not sure Chase Elliott is going to have much for the Toyotas if the Toyotas continue to do what they're doing from practice. They were dominating fast. So that kind of gives you an explanation of what we're looking at here. I probably won't go as in-depth for each person, but as you're looking and watching, have a general idea of all the different stats. All right, Kyle Larson, 10,700, starting 8th. He was 14th in single lap. He did a total of 20 laps, and he was 10th in the 5-lap average. He does have a win at Auto Club from earlier this year, and he at the comparison tracks now. Remember, he did not race in 2020, the 2 races here at Michigan, but he did race the Auto Club 2020 and raced 2022 in Michigan 21. So he has 3 total starts, and out of those 3 starts, he's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s, a 47.8 Draftkings average and an 8.3 average finish. He finished 3rd in this race last year, and his total stats here at Michigan are 13 with 3 wins. Kyle Larson with 3 wins out of 13 starts. It's very, very good. But Kyle Larson also has 6 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and 11 top 20s. I've got him in 30 to 35% of my lineups. His practice speeds were probably, he qualified a little bit better in his practice speeds, but I think he's still probably going to get himself into a top 10. And depending on whether the Toyotas stay as dominant as they are, or if Kyle Larson can kind of go upset that apple cart, he could get himself into a top 5. So I really don't think anybody's going to have much for these Toyotas, but we've also seen days where the Toyotas have been dominant the entire race, and then they screw their pit strategy up, and they end up middle of the pack. So who knows? But I do like Kyle Larson today if the Toyotas happen to have a bad day. Speaking of our first Toyota, Kyle Busch, extremely fast in practice, and in qualifying, he 10,500. He's starting 3rd. He was 1st in single lap. He did a total of 17 laps, and he did have a 5-lap average where he was 3rd. He does not have a win in the last 5 races at our comparison tracks, but does have 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s at 45.1 Draftkings average, and a 6.4 average finish. Really solid average finish for Kyle Busch. He finished 7th in this race last year. He does have a win here at Michigan, and he's got a total of 31 starts, and 9 of those he finished in the top 5, and almost half the time he finishes in the top 10. So Kyle Busch should be very, very strong today, and like I said, I think all the Toyotas can be very strong today. Denny Hamlin, our next Toyota driver, 10,300. He's starting 9th. He was 3rd in single lap. He did 21 laps of practice. He was 1st in 5 laps. He was 1st in 10 laps, and he was 1st in 15 lap averages. Denny Hamlin was really fast during practice. He was pretty fast in qualifying. He just messed his final qualifying up when they kind of break down to 10. Still not a bad lap, but starting 9th, so I think there might be a little bit of PD upside if we talk about somebody with PD upside starting 9th. But if Denny Hamlin is as dominant as he has been in the past here at this track, he will be somebody to contend with, and I think if they don't screw their pit stops up, Denny Hamlin could easily contend for a win here. So, but I mean, as we've seen, Denny Hamlin always finds a way to either speed on pit road or his pit crew decides to screw up somehow. So maybe that bug is gone and Denny Hamlin can have himself a pretty good day. But I've got both Kyle and Denny in about 30 to 35% of my lineups. Hey, hit me up in the chat. What do you think? Toyota going to have a record day and have all 5 cars in the top 5, or do we see something happen with the Toyotas today to cause something different? And maybe Ross Chastain might be that person. He seems to always get up there and mess with the Toyotas. Kind of messes with everybody. But Ross Chastain, $10,000, starting 22nd. He was not too fast during practice either. But for some reason, they always seem to find speed throughout the race. Trackhouse always, at least this year, has found a way to get their guys up front. So as long as he doesn't wreck it, he probably will get himself into the top 10. And once again, I'm not sure that anybody's got speed for these Toyotas, but I mean, Ross Chase and Kyle Larson could easily try to be up there and give it a valiant effort. But because of his starting spot, I think Ross Chastain gets himself into a top 10 position and starting 22nd, a good amount of PD upside potential. And I think he'll also be fairly heavily owned because of how well he's been doing this year. I mean, he is leading the optimal lineup contest with 9 optimal lineups this year. So I expect Ross Chastain to work his way to the front. He's typically very fast at these types of tracks. So I think his qualifying and practice are just a little outlying. But $10,000. Now his stats here at Michigan are not great either. So maybe he is supposed to be a 22nd place driver. I don't think that's the case. Only has 1 top 20 out of the 5 races that we're looking at, has never finished in the top 20 in the 4 starts here at Michigan. So I don't know. He finished 35th here in this race last year. Remember, different car, different team. All the things are different. All right. Our next grouping here starts with Tyler Reddick, our winner from Indy last week, 9,700. And I tell you what, in the last, 5-6 weeks, Tyler Reddick has been on a tear, to say the least. He's had a ton of top 5 finishes, a couple wins. Tyler Reddick is starting 6th. He was 6th in practice. He did 18 laps. He was 6th in 5-lap average. So starting 6th, that's a great, if he can finish 6th, that works out well for DraftKings. We're looking for those finishing spots as much as we are the PD upside, or dominators. So you got to pick those guys that will get you good finishes too, because they pay a lot of points. But Tyler Reddick has only raced here 3 times and only had 1 top 20 out of the comparison tracks. Now remember, Tyler Reddick also led 90 of the 200 laps at Auto Club earlier this year. He was on pace to easily get the win there and ended up having I think it was a left front or left rear tire issue, which seemed to be the culprit at the beginning of this year. Goodyear is bringing a different tire than they ran at Auto Club, so hopefully that holds up a little bit better. But Tyler Reddick was on pace to win the race at Auto Club earlier this year. So Tyler Reddick knows how to get around these tracks. He also loves to rim ride the top of the track, just like Kyle Larson does. And I'm sure by the end of this race, there will be lots of speed up there in that resin. So I expect Tyler Reddick to have probably a strong finish. Maybe finish where you start, which would be enough if you're starting 6th or 5th to be okay with me. So I have 25% of Tyler Reddick. Hit me up in the chat. What do you guys think? Who you taking? Who you not taking? Would love to hear your opinion. Martin Truex Jr., 9,500, starting 7th. Lead, part of that Toyota group with JGR. Starting 7th, he was 5th in first 1-lap speed. He did 15 total laps. He was 7th in 5-lap speed. So keeping right up there with the rest of the Toyotas on very, very fast in practice and qualifying. He does not have a win here at Michigan, but out of his 31 total starts, kind of like Kyle Busch, he has 10 finishes in the top 5 and 14 in the top 10. So almost half the time he's finishing in the top 10 and starting 7th, kind of like Tyler Reddick. I mean, if he can get me a 7th place finish with a 7th place start, no harm, no foul. Maybe have a couple of fast laps. That'll put you up there into where you need to be to finish well in DraftKings. And probably pretty well in any of the other fantasy leagues that you may be running. But I've got 35% ownership on Martin Truex Jr. I expect him to run just as well as the rest of the Toyotas. And remember, Martin Truex Jr. is also looking to get that win to make sure that he makes the playoffs. along with our next contender, Ryan Blaney, who did win this race last year. But Ryan Blaney and the Fords have been having issues. I wouldn't say real issues. They just can't find the speed that they're looking for. So if this ends up being a longer type of race, I'm not sure how well the Fords will fare compared to the Toyotas, mostly. And the Chevys seem to be a little bit faster also. But Ryan Blaney was fairly quick in practice. He was 18th on he was 8th on single lap and 16th on 5 laps. He did 15 laps of practice. He is starting 24th, so decent amount of PD upside potential here with Ryan. He definitely is not a 24th place finisher. I'm not sure the Fords are going to contend for top 10s. But if we have some issues or whatever, I think Ryan Blaney gets himself into maybe a top 10, but more likely 11th, 12th, 13th, which, and if you cut your starting spot in half and finish 12th, that's pretty good. So I do have 25% of Ryan Blaney. He knows how to get around here. He does have 1 win here out of his 13 total starts, along with 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s. So I do like some Ryan Blaney today. Not as much as I like the Toyotas, but I do like Ryan Blaney mostly from his starting spot. William Byron, 9,200, starting 20th. And he was not fast in practice. 27th on single lap and 20th in 5 lap average. He ran 14 laps. Which is weird because William Byron typically would run this type of track fairly well. Runs Atlanta fairly well, which is a little bit similar. So maybe William Byron, I think, will improve his starting spot, but I don't know by how much. So that's why I faded off of William Byron a little bit. I'm only at 10 to 15%, but there is some potential PD upside play with William here. He did finish in second in this race last year. So, all right, Christopher Bell, $9,000, and he was fast in qualifying. He was decently fast in practice. And this type of track suits Christopher Bell fairly well. He finished 13th in this race last year, 15th in single lap, 11th in 5 lap average. Like I said, he's starting outside pole. I don't love his starting spot. I think he easily can get himself a top 5. So if he finishes 5th and starts 2nd, there's not huge downside, not a whole lot of PD downside, but it's a little bit more risky when you get up here to the 2nd starting spot. I still have 25% ownership. Christopher Bell has been running very, very well recently, ever since they made the pit crew changes with Bubba Wallace's team. Both of them seem to be running much better since they made that change. They found a little something. I don't think Toyotas have any tape on their front bumper today, so I think NASCAR would probably have already found that inspection. But either way, Christopher Bell, 3 total starts here at Michigan with 3 top 20s. I like Christopher Bell, I just don't love his starting spot, but if you can get me a top 5 finish, then it's still worth it. All right, Joey Logano, 8,800. I just don't love the Fords today. I think out of all the Fords, I think Austin Cindric may be the driver that may show up better than the rest of them. But I mean, Joey was decently fast in practice at 13th. I can't find anywhere that he ran 5 laps, but he did 16 total laps. So maybe he did a bunch of little short stints, which kind of concerns me on their long run speed potential. So starting 4th, being sandwiched in a bunch of Toyota party, I think he's going to get left out to dry. I think Joey ends up being just outside the top 10. But that's too much of a PD downside for me. I do have him in 10 to 15% in case there's a little bit of mix up and the Toyota's plan and Joey can get himself a decent finish, but I'm not sure he's a top 5 contender for today, so I definitely have faded off on Joey today. He does run fairly well here. He's got 3 wins here at Michigan with 7 top 5s, 13 top 10s out of his 25 total starts. He's got a 12.6 average finish out of the races that we're looking at. So, not awful stats for Joey here. I just don't think the Fords have the speed that they're looking for currently, especially at this type of track. Daniel Suarez next in line here at 8,600, starting 15th. coming out of that Trackhouse camp. 12th in single lap, 12th in 5-lap averages, and 5th in 10-lap averages. So not bad practice speeds. Practice speeds were a little bit better than where he qualified. And he runs fairly well here. I mean, he's got a 20.8 finish at the 5 races that we're looking at. 9 total times here. He has started at Michigan with 3 top 20s and 2 top 10s, top 5s. I think Daniel may start where he finishes, or finishes where he starts. So 15 to 20% ownership with me for Daniel in case they're able to find a little bit more speed throughout the race. And they have been doing fairly well so far this year, especially at this summer stint that we're in. So, I don't love Daniel. I'm probably even with the field on Daniel. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Daniel have a decent day, but I don't love where he's starting, and I just don't like his past stats here at this type of track. Kevin Harvick, $8,400. Starting 16th, he was 11th in single lap. He was 14th in 5-lap. He was 7th in 10-lap. Practice speeds were solid. His starting spot does allow for some PD upside. And in the 5 races that we're taking into comparison here, he's got 2 wins, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, 60.9 DraftKings average. That's a stellar average. And a 19.8 average finish. He finished 14th in this race last year, but his 40 total starts here at Michigan, he's got 5 wins, 15 top 20s, 15 top 5s, and he's over 50% on top 10s at 21. And only 5 times he's finished worse than 20th. But he's driving a Ford, and I just don't see huge speed in the Fords. Now, Kevin Harvick's going to find a way to get up front. And at least improve his position. I'm 15 to 20% on him just because I don't love the Fords today. But let me know if you like Kevin Harvick today from where he's starting. Kevin has to win to get into the playoffs. Is this the type of track? I think this is might be Kevin Harvick's best opportunity to get himself into the playoffs because you really don't want to go to Daytona and have to win to get in because that's going to be a demolition derby in my opinion. Alex Bowman, 8,200. Whoa, do I like your starting spot of 30th. And your practice speeds were 9th in single lap and 8th in 5-lap. You did 18 laps at practice. He does have a win at Auto Club, which is a similar style track. Hey, look at there. I've got spam bots. Love it when I get spam bots. Can I get rid of them in the middle of my thing? I block him? Let's see. And hide him. See if I can block this guy. Ooh. Great, he's just spamming the heck out of it. Unhide. Alright, so report him. Alright. Let's see if that stops him. Either way. Hopefully I got rid of it. I hit it. Alright, back to Alex Bowman. Great practice speeds. Awful qualifying. Starting 30th. And every time Alex Bowman starts back here, he ends up in an early mess. Typically, that's not even really of his making. It's just those guys back there race too hard to try to get up front early. And Alex gets turned around, but he runs fairly well at this style track. So I do like his PD upside. I don't really, you got to start back there to have this much PD upside, but God, every time Alex Bowman's back here, it just turns out to be a mess for Alex. I still have him in 20-25% of my lineups. I'm probably underweight. I think he's probably going to be 30-35% owned. But it scares me when Alex is running back there with all these guys. So good luck, Alex. I do have him in 20-25% on a PD upside potential. And could easily, if he gets himself into a top 15, top 10, will make the optimal lineup, starting that far back. Erik Jones, who was extremely fast at Auto Club earlier this year. And this team has been running phenomenally well lately. Just signed a long-term contract with Petty GMS Racing. I knew it was Richard Petty's team, but I knew GMS had just bought into partnership. So it blanked out there for a second. Sorry. Starting 10th, 17th in single lap, 19th in 5-lap average. Like I said, he runs really well. He's got a 13.8 average finish at the 5 races that we're comparing. Here at Michigan, he's raced 9 times. He's got 1 top 5, 1 top 10, and 7 top 20s. Starting 10th, and I'm not sure how much you're going to have to be able to go up and battle with the Toyotas, but if you can go from 10th to 5th, that's a plus for me. So I've got 25% ownership in Erik Jones. It is a little risky because he does have sometimes a tendency to get himself into trouble, but that seems to have settled down as of recent. So a little nervous about Erik Jones, but I do like how well he does race at this style racetrack. All right, our next grouping here, Austin Cindric, the last of the Penske drivers in the Ford 7700, starting 5th. Qualified super well, and typically does. Practice speeds were not great. 16th in single lap and 35th in 5-lap. I think he may have been coming on a cool down lap or something. He slid in a corner or something. Because NBC didn't put it on television, I have not actually watched it. I did listen to it on the MRN broadcast, but I never heard anything about why the 5-lap average was slower. He's only got 1 start here in the Cup Series in a car like this, which was Auto Club early this year, where he got a 12th place finish and 20.5 DraftKings points. Austin scares me a little bit. He's going to have to play with his Toyotas and Chevys, and I think he drifts backwards. So 15 to 20% ownership on Austin Cindric, and might be even a little heavy on the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in at 8-10% owned. All right, Chase Briscoe also coming out of the Ford camp with Stewart Haas Racing, 7,500, starting 23rd. Much better starting spot, a little more PD upside potential than somebody like Austin Cindric, but still driving that Ford, and he was only 20th in single lap and did not do a 5-lap average out of his 14 total laps. He does run fairly well at this style track, where he has a 13.5 average finish between Michigan last year and Auto Club earlier this year. He did race this race here at Michigan last year, where he finished. He finished 11th at this race last year. So 1 top 20. All right, our pole sitter, Bubba Wallace. His first pole. Congratulations, Bubba Wallace, on your first pole. And Bubba Wallace has been extremely fast over the last 4 races. Wow, second in single lap. Did a total of 22 laps. He was second in 5-lap average, second in 10-lap average, just behind Denny Hamlin. Ended up getting the pole. Bubba Wallace is extremely fast. But I don't like the starting spot at all. I don't like pole sitters to begin with, even though pole sitters have been doing much better this year. Hit me up in the chat. What do you guys think? Do you take Bubba Wallace today, starting from the pole? Will his streak of, top 10 finishes continue? I'm fading him. I think I might have him in one lineup, and it was kind of a Toyota run lineup. But yeah, I don't like the pole sitter here. He was super fast, and if he ends up winning it, great for him. And I just don't like his starting spot. But congratulations on the pole, Bubba. You've got a 19th place finish here last year. You have a 19th place average finish at this style track. I know this year is completely different, and 2311 has been running really, really well. I just don't like your starting spot. Nowhere to go but down, in my opinion. That may be the big one that cost me today. If Bubba Wallace goes out and dominates this race for some reason, I'm in trouble. But Austin Dillon, 7,300, starting 26. He had a great run at Auto Club earlier this year. He has not been running where he needs to as of recent. but he has been running better than 26th. He's got a 20.2 average finish at the 5 tracks that we're comparing here. 18 total starts here at Michigan. He's got 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s. He was 19th in single lap, 18th in 5 lap, which is better than where he is starting. I think he's a top 20 driver. I'm not sure he gets himself into a top 10, but potentially. I think he's much more of a 15th through 20th, which, if he gets to 15th, would be enough for me to say, hey, yeah, you need to put him in your cash lineups or maybe even your tournament lineups. Either way, I do like Austin Dillon, 15 to 20% ownership. Chris Buescher, 7,100, starting 19th, 18th in single lap, 13th in 5 lap. He was much better than his owner, Brad Kay, who we'll get to in a second. But driving that forward, I just don't know if you finish any better than where you start. Finished 15th here at this race last year. He's got a 21.2 average finish at the 5 races that we're comparing. But only one of them is in this next gen car. Yeah, I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. I think you finish where you start, unless there's some attrition and you happen to miss some of the wrecks. Brad Kay, his owner and teammate at RFK Racing, starting 33rd. Now, lots of PD upside potential here for Brad, but his practice laps were not great either. He was 26th single lap. He did 18 total laps of practice and never got to a 5-lap average. 24 total starts here, though. He runs fairly well. 7 top 5s, 13 top 10s. In the comparison tracks, he's got a 16.4 average finish. If he can get up to a 16th place finish, heck yeah, I'll take him all day in my lineups. I am pretty heavily on Brad. I think Brad will probably come in at least in the 25 to 30% ownership range. He may be even higher than that. But I'm probably at least even, if maybe a little underweight on Brad. All right, next in line here, Erik Amarillo, 6,800, starting 18th. 17, let's see, 7th in single lap, 9th in 5 lap, 4th in 10 lap. Erik seems to be almost the fastest Ford out there. I just don't know what to do with Erik Amarillo starting 18th. He's got a 10.6 average finish here, which is at the 5 tracks that we're looking at, 5 races that we're looking at. He finished 17th. But at Michigan, he's got 18 total starts and only won 2 top 10s. So he seems to hover right there in that 10 to 15th. And I'm not sure that does me any good if you're starting 18th. I'm off of Erik. So if Erik and Bubba Wallace have great days today, I'm in deep trouble with my lineups, to say the least. But either way, Erik Amarillo here, starting 18th. I faded off of him. I've got him in like 1 or 2 lineups. But I could see the argument for running him in some more, other than he's driving a Ford today. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next in line here at 6,700, starting 28th. 31st in single lap. Did not do a 5-lap consecutive. But starting 28th, I like his starting spot. I didn't like his practice speed. But an 18.6 average finish. He finished 12th in this race last year. 17 total starts here with 1 top 10, 9 top 20s. Starting 28th, I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets himself into a top 20, maybe top 15 type situation. But I've got him in 30-35%, mostly because of the PD upside potential of Ricky. Not that I think he's going to be a top 10 driver, but we definitely need to find some help in the back, and he's 6,700, so not too badly priced. It helps you get some of the top Toyotas. Speaking of Toyotas, Ty Gibbs. I think Ty Gibbs here is way underpriced at 6,600. Even starting 11th, he flat out dominated the race yesterday in the Xfinity Series here at this track. Ty Gibbs is extremely good at these 1.5-mile, 2-mile tracks. He was 4th in single lap. He ran 24 laps of practice, which is the most of anybody. 4th in 5-lap average, 3rd in 10-lap average. He's super quick. He knows how to race these types of tracks, and I think he's had 2 really good days of, hold on, I got the damn bots are back. I'd user, there we go. And gotta love the bots. Sorry about that, guys. Ty Gibbs, I think the reins are let off of Ty. I think they've told Ty, go run, go see what you can do. You had two races where you kind of held back and kind of learned this car a little bit. I think they take the reins off of Ty, and I think Ty's going to go full force into this thing. He could either do checkers or records on this thing, but I think he probably, I don't know for a fact, but I think he probably has permission to send it today. And he's got the car to do it. He's going to send it. We potentially could see just a crazy, weird upset winner here out of Ty Gibbs. I mean, this car with Kurt Busch in it was extremely fast at Kansas, extremely fast at Michigan. I'm sorry, at Auto Club. If Kurt were in this car, I would put Kurt as a potential winner today. And I think Ty Gibbs might be as good of a driver as Kurt Busch today. And I know it's kind of saying a lot, but Ty Gibbs is a damn good wheelman. Doesn't have the experience of a Kurt Busch, but he's got an ability, that is for sure. So I think I like Ty Gibbs, and if you want a kind of a shot in the dark pick for Vegas, I think maybe taking Ty Gibbs for the win is not out of the realm by any means. This Ty Gibbs, Ty Gibbs is plus 3,000 or 30 to 1. So heck yeah, go put a couple dollars on Ty Gibbs to win. Put $10 in it, make 300. Might just do that. All right. Either way, next in line here, Michael McDowell, 6,500, who has been on a top 10 tear recently. He's starting 14th. He's starting kind of up close to there. 24th in single lap, though. 22nd in 5 lap. Only got one top 20 out of 12 starts here in Michigan. Out of all the tracks, Michael McDowell's not great at this style. I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups, just because they've been running really well at tracks that they're not supposed to run well at. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with 14th. It's not far enough back to get a lot of PD upside potential. But if he doesn't finish well, it could really burn you. I'm probably fading off of Michael at 10 to 15%. And I think probably the rest of the field's going to do the same. All right, Austin Hill, another new driver to the Cup Series. Welcome, Austin Hill. This potentially could be the driver that takes over the 8 car, maybe as early as next year. And I think that's why this car is being. I have a full Custer car here. Oh, I'm not going to fix it during the live stream. But either way, he's driving the 33 car, which has no points, no anything. He's starting 31st. I think Austin Hill's job is to complete all the laps and try to finish on the lead lap. If he does that, he's probably looking at a top 20, starting 31st. Decent amount of PD upside potential here. He raced this race. He raced the Xfinity race yesterday and got himself a top 5. He understands this style of track. He likes this style of track. Now, the question is, how well will he do in a Cup car? I think his job is to start in 31st, stay on the lead lap. He's going to be given the same talk that Ty Gibbs got 2 weeks ago. It was, hey, don't do anything to screw the car up. Race the first one, the first segment, clean, stay on the lead lap. The second one, go play with everybody a little bit. And then the third one, see what you can do with it, but don't make sure you finish the race. If that happens, Austin Hill goes from starting 31st to finishing 18th to 24th. So potentially a top 20 or just outside the top 20. Is that enough at 6,400? Maybe. All right, well, here's Cole Custer in the 41. That's the right picture. 6,200, starting 17th. Don't like where you're starting, Cole. I think Cole Custer could easily kind of finish where Austin Hill may finish. Somewhere between 17th and 23rd. So right around that 20. That's kind of where his stats are. 22.2 average finish. He finished this race 23rd last year. Now, his only 2 decent runs have been at Auto Club, not here at Michigan. Yeah, I don't like your starting spot, so I faded off of Cole Custer. I'm at 0 to 5%, which means I might have him in a lineup. Harrison Burton here at $6,000, who had a record top finishing day last week at Indy, which cost me because I was like, no way Harrison Burton's going to finish in the top where he was starting. But yeah, he did. He proved me wrong. He made the optimal lineup, along with Todd Gillan, who we'll talk about in a second also. But Harrison Burton has no starts here at Michigan, has the 1 start in the Cup Series at Auto Club, where he had a decent finish. Starting 27th, 29th in single lap, 24th in 5 lap, 9th in 10 lap. I think there's only 10 cars that did 10 lap. I think you finish where you start, if not a little bit worse. I'm not sure Harrison Burton gets himself much past 20th, which I don't isn't enough for me. So I'm probably faded off of Harrison Burton a little bit, just as like I am Justin Haley. You're starting too far up. I don't think you get much better than 21st. You're 25th in 1 lap, 27th in 5 lap. Your stats are not great here, no top 20s. You have a 33rd place average finish. You've got a -3 Draftkings average. I don't like where you're starting, so I'm faded off. I'm at 5 to 10% ownership on Justin Haley. Ty Dillon, 5,700. Wow, what a hit last week from the out-of-control Kyle Larson. But glad to see Ty Dillon and Kyle Larson both make it out of that accident fairly unscathed. Ty Dillon says he's been pretty achy all week. But starting 25th, you kind of finish where you start, Ty. I don't think there's a big jump in improvement. I mean, you do have a 21st place average finish. 28th in single lap, 23rd in 5 lap. Yeah, I don't think you do much for me here. So 10 to 15% ownership. Oh, there's the right Austin Dillon one. I don't know why I did that. But Ty Dillon, 10 to 15% ownership. Yeah, you got to have some of these guys that are priced low to get the guys that are priced high. So I kind of spread it out here. I mean, even took some Noah Gragson here, who had a really good day yesterday, top 5 in the Xfinity Series. This is his first Cup start here at Michigan. And I mean, this is the style track that Noah Gragson loves to run. He was 22nd in single lap, 21st in 5 lap average, but he did qualify well in 12th. Don't love his starting spot by any means. I think he probably might get himself a top 20. I'm not sure he gets any better than 12th. But Noah Gragson's now run a few races in this Cup car, and he's probably got a better feel for it. I'm probably a little over at 10 to 15%, mostly because of his starting spot. But I think Noah Gragson, having some experience in this car and running much, much better in the Xfinity Series as of recent, could get himself a top 10, probably finish where you start, or end up last. So, but I think Noah Gragson's really goal is to finish these races. Corey LaJoie, 5,400, starting 32nd. I do like Corey LaJoie's starting spot here in 32nd, even though his practice was 32nd and his 5 lap average was 30th. But his average finish here at this style track is 25.3. And the 8 total starts he's had at Michigan, he's never finished in the top 20. That scares me. So 15 to 20% ownership on Corey LaJoie, but I mean, he's a better option than some of the guys we're about ready to get to. So I think Todd Gillan might round out the end of the people that I would be even interested in taking. So Todd Gillan, 5,200, starting dead last on the field and was super slow in practice, 35th and 32nd, but this is the first time Todd Gillan has seen Michigan. He did have a top 20 finish, finishing 20th at Auto Club, which points to pretty good signs. So, I mean, if he can go get a 20th starting 37th at 5,200, he'll make the optimal lineup. So I do have some decent ownership in Todd Gillan at 15 to 20%. And here's where the wheels just completely fall off and don't have any interest in any of these guys. Cody Ware, starting 34th, was 37th in single lap practice. Josh Bilicki starting 35th with 34th in practice. JJ Yeley starting 29th, 30th in practice. I have no interest. I mean, these guys are going to be lapped before the end of stage 1. BJ McLeod, 36. I mean, unless there just happens to be just a wreck fest, which typically doesn't happen at Michigan, but I mean, we're going to have a little bit of pack racing with this package that we've got. It's not really pack racing. I'm just going to say they're going to be able to draft up on each other. We're going to have small little groups of packs. Now, if somebody screws up in those packs and takes out 5 cars, then those guys become potential players, but I'm not willing to take that risk. So guys that I'm really looking at to finish really well that I also think will be probably heavily owned: Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. I mean, that could easily be top 4 after this race is over with. Best place differential guys, I do like Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Brad Kay, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Ross Chastain, maybe Chase Briscoe, maybe a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. But for other guys that I see that have potential top 10 finish potential, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Erik Jones, I mean, maybe even Austin Cindric. Don't love that one to be in the top 10, but that's why he's at the bottom of this list. Christopher Bell starting second. I mean, Christopher Bell could easily have a top 5. He could easily win this race also. Daniel Suarez at 8,600 starting 15th. Might get himself top 10, but I don't know. But value picks, like the Austin Dillon, Michael McDowell, Noah Gragson, Todd Gillan, Justin Haley, Erik Amarillo, Chris Buescher, and Corey LaJoie. So, those are the guys that I'm kind of looking at. And pretty much anybody in these dark greens is who I'm really kind of heavily looking at to do well and to put into lineups. All right, some other lineups from past Michigan or Auto Club style tracks. Michigan from last year, we had one dominator, being Chase Elliott, who ended up getting an 8th place finish after leading 68 of the 200 laps. William Byron coming up the second. Kurt Busch, who is not in this race, raced really well at this race last year. As you can see, Kurt Busch also down at the Auto Club raced really well, but Kurt's not going to be in this race. But look who's in his car, Ty Gibbs. Somebody else who loves this style track. I really like Ty Gibbs today. I think I might go put $10 on him, Draftkings, on the sports book and kind of see what happens. Christopher Bell, 8,100. Made the optimal lineups. I mean, we are looking at 1 dominator, 3 place differentials, 1 value, and 2 finish, and no money left over. From Auto Club earlier this year, as you can see, Tyler Reddick led 90 laps and then had a flat tire. We did have, I guess, 1-ish dominator who really wasn't in the optimal lineup, but that's why it's a 1-ish. But Kyle Larson ended up finishing first, led 28 laps. Erik Jones led 18 laps, like I said earlier, and then Kurt Busch had a really good strong run. So 5 place differentials, 1 dominator, 2 value, 3 finish. I mean, it's kind of the theme. I'm looking for that 1 dominator, 3 maybe 4 place differentials, and then 1 or 2 guys that we know are going to finish in the top 5. 2020, such a screwed up year doing the weird qualifying thing that we had. So most of it was place differential. I mean, nobody started inside the top 15, but that's because they inverted the field from the spring race. So it was a doubleheader, I think, if I remember correctly. But either way, Kevin Harvick is really good at this track, or at least was really good in this track, especially in 2020. He was on a tear. So he led 90 laps in the fall and 92 laps in the spring. But we had 1 dominator, 5 place differentials, 4 value picks, 2 finishes with $1,000 left over. Today's going to be a day where you're going to use potentially all your money. I don't think it's going to be one of those where you're going to look at a lineup with $3,500 left over up in it. I think there's too much other value, especially with the Toyotas. And you cannot start all the Toyotas. I already looked. Doesn't fit. You can fit 5 of them, but you can't fit 6. But, we're looking for just that 1 dominator, so you're going to try to pinpoint 1 or 2 with the other one, the second person being someone that finishes in the top 5. And then 3 to 4 place differentials. And they're out there. There's plenty of guys that could easily get you some place differential points today. But either way, hit me up in the chat if you're still out there. Let me know who you like today, who you don't like today. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and good luck today. Would love to know if you end up winning any money. Let me know. Have a great one. Oh, and next week, being in Richmond, and I live in Richmond, I'm going to the race, but I will still be doing this live video. I just hope to have it, hope to go live probably at about 11 instead of 12:30. So that way I can make it to the racetrack and enjoy a great day of racing live and in person here in Richmond. So good luck this week, and we will see you next Sunday. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun. Don't get me any more fired up than I already am. All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Hell yeah! Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job. Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you. Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal. We got it here, bud. Thank you very much. Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud. Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.